Bailey. Hi, I am officially out of the army now. My dog. May 2nd was my first day as a civilian. And I gotta say, it feels really, really good. I spent the last 6 years on active duty as an officer, and I got out as a captain. And yeah, it's crazy that I am no longer active duty. You don't realize how long, you don't realize how used to you get to things very quickly, and I definitely forgot what it was like to be a civilian and have you know, little things that I'm allowed to do, like my nails, basically like plan trips ahead of time, and you know, I won't go too far into it, but a lot of freedoms now that I never had before are really nice, so that's very exciting. But today's video is kind of a recap on basically my army career. I'm not going to go like crazy in detail about it, but just talk a little bit about my experience, and then kind of like, you know, my thoughts and how I'm feeling. Okay, so I joined the army in April 2017. I think it's April 25th actually. I joined on an OCS contract. So basically what happens with that is you go to basic training for 10 weeks, and then after that you go straight from there to OCS, and OCS is in Fort Benning in Georgia. So I went there for 12 weeks, and that is where you find what branch you're going to be in the army. And unfortunately OCS gets last pick of all of the other branches, so it was pretty like slim pickings for all of us. I still got my first pick, but I also didn't really like know what I wanted, and I just kind of picked something that other people said was cool, so I did it, which was engineering. So once I got engineering, I went to engineering BOLIC, and BOLIC stands for Basic Officer Leaders Course. And so I went straight from OCS to BOLIC, and that was 6 months for me. It's not all, depends on, you know, the school, the branch that you want to go to. But when I went there, it was in Missouri, in Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Lost in the Woods, and I was there for 6 months. And that is where I think I had my first inclination that I did not want to be in the army, and that I was making a mistake. But obviously when you're just starting out, you feel like it's maybe just nerves. And I also was like, well, it's too late to back out now, so here we go. I felt like BOLIC was definitely like not what I expected. I was really lonely, you know, I was very isolated, and I was in this place that you like, there was not even a Target, and I know that's like what a thing to complain about, but I grew up in the suburbs of like Denver, and moving somewhere where your only shopping options were Walmart and a TJ Maxx, I was kind of like, oh my god. So that was a little bit hard to get used to, and there weren't even any restaurants, and there was like literally nothing to do. So not my favorite place. It was quite the adventure, I'll put it that way. Yeah, because after I was done with engineering and realizing I didn't like engineering BOLIC, I went to Fort Hood, and that was not even on my list of like locations I wanted to go to. It was like, I think we could list literally 7 places, and my number 1 was Hawaii, and then it was Colorado, and then it was Fort Bragg and North Carolina, and nowhere on that list was Texas, but that is where I got sent, and it was a heavy unit. Again, another thing I didn't want to do. I wanted to do light engineering, but get very little say as an officer what you get to do, especially for your first job. So unfortunately I had to be on Bradley's, and it was a hell of an experience. I definitely would never want to go back to doing a job like that again. I really learned a lot about myself and leadership and motivating people and motivating myself. And then just like, the discipline of doing your job even though you are absolutely miserable. I learned that. And it was fun sometimes, but most of the time it was not fun. And my platoon, most of them were really great. I still, to this day, like, think about some moments with a few of my NCOs and a couple of, the younger guys, and some funny moments that happen and stuff that I'll never forget. But I think we had really, really terrible leadership, like, outside our company, and it was very difficult to get anything done and to feel proud about anything, because it was pretty, like, non-existent as far as like praise or someone telling you good job, or like really leading you in general and being like a mentor. That just like didn't exist. So I really had no idea what I was doing, and I think that was like the majority of people who were lieutenants there. It was really difficult to like make friends there because I think everyone was just so miserable. No one really wanted to take the time to like have real friendships and have real hobbies. And I definitely lost myself a lot there in Texas. It was like a really like hard time for me mentally. I definitely like developed really bad depression and anxiety and did not feel like myself. I was doing a job that I didn't really know how to do, and I also felt like I had to hide a huge part of myself, like a really girly part, because it was just a very male dominated field. And I would get like comments about like my watch having a little bit of pink on it, or my lunchbox being too girly, or my hair being too blonde, and that stuff just gets exhausting after a while. So you just start like hiding it and stop being yourself so that other people stop commenting on you all the time. So yeah, it was pretty exhausting, to be honest. And then towards the end of my time there, that's when COVID happened, and I originally wanted to get out, but I was worried because of COVID that the job market, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I was afraid about money. So I decided to apply to do special operations, and I got a date for a class, like a selection class. So that was like in the summer of 2020. So I went there, went to selection, I got selected, came back, and at that point, like, I don't know, I just wanted to get out of Texas. So pretty much left as quickly as I could, and then went to Fort Bragg, and then I did airborne school and met a lot of really cool people. The special operations community in the Army is so much better than the regular Army, in my opinion, because people, they try harder and they're just more interesting people, most of them, and I just fit better in that crowd. Like, I just made friends a lot easier. And then I did Triple C after airborne school, and that's Captain's Career Course. And I thought that was really enjoyable too. I learned a lot, and I made some of my closest friends to this day from that. I made my first girl gang group that I'm like obsessed with still, and they're great and they're badass. And it's the first like group of girls that I had made friends with in the Army, and that was like, at that point I had been in the Army for like 4.5 years, which is crazy. But yeah, as I was going through like our pipeline for my my school, for my new branch, I started realizing, like, even with better circumstances and with more friends and much better mentorship and leadership, I still wasn't happy, and I still felt like I was not anywhere near what I wanted to be. And so that is when I made the decision, about like a year and a half down the road, down the pipeline. I was like, I can't do this anymore, and I walked into my commander's office and I said, I want to get out of the Army. So yeah, and then I won't go too much into that because that was a pretty complicated process, but about, 8 months-ish later, I got out. So here I am today. And I moved to Virginia Beach about a couple months ago, and I live with my boyfriend and one of my friends from college who just got out of the Navy too. And I'm pursuing a career in photography and videography, and I have never felt more like myself, and I feel very happy about that. I'm still struggling with like my feelings of guilt and regret of being in the Army, and like things feeling like I didn't accomplish anything, and I'm sure that will haunt me for a while. But other than that, like life has been a lot better, and I feel like I can like finally be myself and be girly, and I have so much more time to like hang out with my dogs and to work out and read and like do my hobbies that I like and chase my passions and be myself. And yeah, so like I guess I'm just really happy that I made the decision, because I was spending so much time trying to be something I'm not to impress other people, because I thought that's what I wanted. And I think that a lot of people in their 20s do that, and then once you realize that you're wildly unhappy and you'd rather just be yourself, and you make that leap of faith and you start over, you actually end up making yourself so much happier, even though it's scary and you feel like you're going to be a quitter and you feel like you have no idea what you're doing. I think in a lot of circumstances it's a good thing. So I feel like sometimes when I talk about the Army, I get a little bit negative, and I just don't want that to be my whole personality. Like, that's boring. Nobody's had that bad of experience. Well, some people have, but I did not have that bad of an experience to hate every aspect of it. I wanted to talk about today some more like positive things. Yesterday was a little bit more like of a somber day for me. And today I feel like it's important for me to mention the positive things that came out of it. For example, one of the best things that's ever happened to me was something that occurred while I was at Fort Bragg, and that is I met the best friends ever, like the most badass group of girls, intelligent, and I mean, I have had amazing, beautiful, funny, intelligent girlfriends in the past, but it's just like onesies and twosies. I've never had like a big group of all women who just encompassed everything I hoped to be in the Army, and I met them, and it was just like we all came together like this, and none of us were really best friends before except for two of them. They had known each other previously, but we all kind of collided, and then all of a sudden we just were like inseparable, in the sense that like we were ride or dies. Like, these girls I know for a fact would take a bullet for me, and I would take a bullet for them any day. And like, I say that literally because some of them have been in combat and have been shot at. So I think meeting them was such a blessing, and I remember my parents telling me that the best thing that will come out of the military is the friendships that you will make, and I didn't really believe them at first because I honestly had a hard time connecting with people. It's not that like I had a horrible experience with my peers or anything, like nobody was mean to me or anything, but I just didn't feel like I could make those lasting like best friendships, and until I got to Fort Bragg, and I just met like the most amazing group of women who I feel like I'll be friends with until I'm like 100 years old. And you know who you are. You're so amazing. And I have like everything to thank you guys for, because I feel like I was going through such a dark and I was super lonely. I was like, this was about like a year and a half ago. I had to have shoulder surgery, like a pretty major shoulder and bicep tendon surgery. And this was around the time that I also decided really that I wanted to get out of the army, or I was like realizing it. And I also got dumped, and that was shitty. And so like finding these girls at this time was just like it was kismet. It was like the most magical, cool thing that could have happened. So I have the army to thank for that. I would never have met them if it weren't for the army. So that was really great. I also met my current boyfriend, who is the love of my life, and I'm obsessed with him. I met him while being in the military. I didn't meet him in the army, but he's in the Navy, and just like by proximity is kind of how we met. And if I had never joined the army, I would have never met him. So again, another positive thing. Most of the positive things are the relationships that you make and curate, and I just think that's like the things I'm going to take away the most. I also feel like I've learned a lot about myself, and I think that's a huge positive. I've learned a lot of what I don't like, but I've also learned what I like, and how to have strength to stand up for what I like, because I feel like before I kind of let people walk all over me for certain things, but at the same time I also had an attitude problem before I joined the army, to be honest. My mom would agree with that, probably my dad too. And I think the army gave me a little bits of humility and learned a little bit of tact, so that when I speak to people, I'm not necessarily saying exactly what's on my mind, but I'm kind of giving them the gist in a more polite way. And now I feel like I can control that better. I also think that it ignited an adventurous bug in me. I think I've always been someone who wanted to chase adventure and do things, but I was a little bit afraid to do things on my own when I was younger. And nothing is scarier than leaving on a bus by yourself to go to boot camp when you sign a contract and you potential of going to war, and doing that on my own, and then deploying and going to really kind of at the time scary schools, and moving by myself, and figuring out the whole army, and like being in a whole man's world and situation. Like all of that was terrifying, but it has shaped me to be a much more confident and interesting person, I think, because I feel like I was a little bit kind of caught in a bubble before I joined. So I think that's been pretty cool. Picking my gym outfit today, which it's always my least favorite / favorite time of day to pick an outfit, because sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I have so many options, I'm so excited, and then other times I'm like, I have nothing to wear. I think today is one of those days where I feel like I have nothing to wear. But that's okay. I have to remind myself to be grateful, because when you're in the army, you do not get to decide what you want to wear. You have to wear the same thing every day, and so I have to remind myself I get to pick from all of this, and I get to be colorful, and I get to be girly. So on that note, I think I'm gonna wear this blue sports bra and maybe these black shorts. Maybe. Okay, I think this is the vibe. I don't really love these shorts, but I like that they're plain black. And apparently that's the only pair of plain black shorts I own, so yeah. I'm just gonna wear this to the gym. It's gonna be squats and I think like maybe some toes to bar. I don't know. I've started doing CrossFit classes again, and it's been fun. It's been really taxing on my body, But that's because I am old and I don't recover very easily anymore. But it's still fun and it's a good way for me to like meet people since I moved. And like I could barely even like kick into a handstand, do like a full, I still can't really even like do a full ass to grass squat without lifters on. And I'm like working on walking on my hands more, which is hard being like 5'10" and doing that with skinny arms, but there's like a lot of cool stuff. And now that I'm out, I have a lot more time to dedicate to this rather than like spending time rucking or running all the time, or just working on like push-ups and pull-ups. It's kind of refreshing, taxing but refreshing. But yeah, this is the whole fit. This is what we're working with today. Here's the back, my sports bra, very plain, very simple. It's Fleo, Lululemon I believe, Noble, and Nike.